11 o'clock. And our next budget hearing is with our district attorney.
Good morning, Commissioners. Chad Taylor, District Attorney. Chairman Archer, Commissioner Bueller, Commissioner Cook. Basically what I thought I would do is line out for you what's going well, and then the challenges that we're facing, and then explain to you the rationale financially of why we've made the request that we have. You know, overall, I am pleased with where the District Attorney's Office is at today. Obviously, we're always striving to improve. We have people walking in and pleading guilty to first-degree premeditated murder. I think that's a testament to the talent in the District Attorney's Office in conjunction with the working relationship that we have with our law enforcement partners in working through and developing good cases that are properly and legally investigated without a lot of issues. And so when we're able to do that, it saves a tremendous amount of effort and associated cost on the back end. 3 Mondays ago was kind of an interesting day. It's the first time, I believe, in the history of this building that we kicked off 2 premeditated first-degree murder cases on the same day. A week later, both of those came back guilty as charged. So that was kind of a very proud day for the District Attorney's Office and our ability to deliver justice for those victims and those families. So overall, we've got the right people in the right chairs, and things are progressing at a pretty good clip. We're beginning to start to see the efficiencies from the grand jury. We will be more in full swing of that the second half of this year as we're able to start utilizing the grand jury fix that we pushed through the Kansas legislature to be able to indict the underlying misdemeanors that are trailing on top of the felonies. That's legal speak. What does that mean? Hypothetically, if you're in a situation to where your house has the front door kicked in, stuff is stolen out of your home and you're not there, we've got 2 issues. We have a burglary, and then we have criminal damage to property, which is the damage done to the door. Before the grand jury fix, that CDP, or criminal damage to property, was a misdemeanor and it couldn't be indicted, which meant we couldn't run it through the grand jury because we wouldn't be able to get our constituent the restitution that they deserve for the damage that was done to their home. So now we've gotten that fixed, and now we can run those through the grand jury. Same thing with felony dope possession and possession of paraphernalia. So we'll be able to push forward and continue to realize those efficiencies. We're on pace to file more cases this year than we have in the prior 6 years. I believe that right now we're on target of about plus 225 year to date. What that means, and if you go to DOE, those numbers won't reflect it because those cases are still working their way through the full court system as the clerk's office is going through their learning curve on that new software program. But working really hard. We're gonna probably, I would guess, year to date will probably be 350 to 400 more cases than we filed last year. So what does all of that mean? The challenges that we're having are that, and you look at our total overall budget and where we spend our money, somewhere between 94% approximately is going to be spent on personnel costs. People, loadings, benefits, all that kind of stuff. We have had the luxury or benefit of being able to offset additional increases from this body and from the taxpayers based upon where our diversion funds were coming in. What we're seeing is that those revenues off of those diversion funds is beginning to trail off. We're using that for paying for court reporters, basically all of our hard costs, office supplies, all of that kind of stuff. So if you look at what has happened is, and we started investigating back why to make sure the problem wasn't internal on why that revenue was falling off. The reason for it is that traffic production is actually down, meaning that our partners in the Sheriff's Office and the Highway Patrol are writing fewer tickets and have started asking around about why that is. Headcount at the Highway Patrol is reduced, headcount at the Sheriff's Office is down, and so if we don't have folks out writing tickets, they're not going to request diversions, and so they're following each other on those curves. One of the bigger issues than that we're going to face, and I think it would be probably short-sighted and if we didn't start talking about this in this year's budget cycle is that we have a leadership team in the DA's office that's pretty talented. When I got elected, we started bringing them in and pilfering them from offices all over the state to get them here. The issue with it is that I can't stop time. And we have 5 people on the senior management team that will be retirement eligible within the next 4 years. They have all indicated when they hit that magic number, they're going to retire. So that leads us with some succession planning issues. I will tell you that the ability to fill those particular ranks, I think we've got the right people on board right now that as they continue to gain another 2 to 3 to 4 years worth of experience, we will be in a position pretty seamlessly to be able to push those people up into those upper level management positions without a lot of interruption. The issue becomes who do we backfill them with? And right now we're running our summer intern program to where just about every year we've been able to hire at least 1, if not 2, of the young attorneys who come through our intern program and then ultimately wind up being hired into the office as full-time assistants. Don't be surprised if at some point in time next year, depending upon how this intern class develops, if it is in a position that I come down and ask you for more money probably in June or July to be able to bump our head count by 1 or potentially 2 if we don't have the money in the budget to do it through open positions or vacancies or something like that. Because I think we're going to need to continue to build that downward bench strength to be able to have folks who do this job right, do it the way that it needs to be done, and have grown up in our system so that that transition when those retirements come is pretty seamlessly. I'll give you an example. Chris Biggs, who was in our office, retired in March, and we were in a position, and that's a guy with 25 years experience who walked out the door, and we were in a position with Charlie Kitt or Chuck Kitt in our office who, we had grown up, invested in him, trained him to where when Chris retired, it was a pretty seamless transition for Chuck to be able to pick the baton up and run with it. So seeing how when that works really well, the benefits to the office and the benefits to the community, I would like to continue on that succession path. Other than that, no surprise, the cost of everything's going up. Copier leases, gas, our JustWare licensing, our application extender, more cases we put in the system, more stuff has to be scanned. So that's why we're asking for more money, is to hedge off against the decrease in diversions, decrease in grant funding, and then obviously the overall operating costs for our office. So that pretty much covers my shtick.
Commissioner Bueller, you have questions or comments?
No, not at this time.
Okay, Commissioner Cook?
Chad, Mr. Taylor, prosecution numbers are going to be up 400 this year?
Yes.
Or 400, so that's the 400, is that just attributed to more crime that's being investigated, more crime in Shawnee County? What's the correlation? Better prosecution by your office, I'm assuming.
I think it's a combination of things going in the right direction. Right now, the VCU, the Violent Crime Unit inside of the Topeka Police Department, in conjunction with the Narcotics Unit inside of the PD and the Sheriff's Office, in conjunction with the federal FBI task force work that's being done here in Shawnee County, things are going really well. I think that if you look at the overall crime trends that we're seeing, our violent crime numbers continue to trend in the right direction, and that's downward. I think we're just getting smarter and we're getting more efficient at how we're dealing with property crime. Property crime is our issue, and all of that is going to stream out of drug abuse and drug addiction. People are going to buy drugs, they're going to steal stuff to fuel or to fund that habit, and I think we've gotten better and smarter at how we're investigating those cases to get them into a posture to be able to get them prosecuted.
This morning on vouchers, we had from district court 747 jurors
Okay.
that were paid. Do we see more jury trials occurring? Is there I know we have, your office has really this standard of, you said, people that come in and plead
Mhm.
to the top charge, which is really pretty fascinating, overall in the criminal
As a
field.
defense lawyer, right?
As a defense attorney. But it does show the standard of your office, the capabilities of your office and the prosecutorial professionalism of your office.
We have, and I will say this because I too used to work as a defense lawyer. It is not our goal to deprive anyone of their constitutional rights. The cost of bringing in jurors and the cost of having those jury trials is a cost of doing business. That is something that constitutionally we can never get away from. I will tell you that the results and I am guessing that those vouchers came back through for the week of Qualls and Robinson. Those vouchers, it's just a cost of doing business, and there's no way around it.
Is that it? I had a couple of things. Number one,
Yes, sir.
I am happy that you're looking at succession planning.
Mhm.
That's an issue countywide. I
Mhm.
mean, it is, and that's important. Would you talk a little bit about grants? And I know we've talked about this in the past, that it's gotten to the point where it costs more money to apply for a particular grant than the grant money itself. Would you go into that a little bit?
Sure. We have, I believe that in 2009 or 2010, our office was receiving approximately $600,000 worth of grant money. In looking at those grants, and I think today that number's approximately 72,000. Actual cash in the door is probably closer to about 60. It's the same amount of paperwork. It's the same amount of time commitment. It's the same amount of tracking. And so what we're sitting back looking at doing is doing a cost-benefit analysis on what is our hard cost for staff time to receive those funds versus the benefit that we were receiving. When we got the Recovery Act VAWA money that funded up a dedicated sex crimes prosecutor and a dedicated victim witness person for those cases to the tune of $280,000, that was clearly worth it. The situation that we're in today, by the time that you figure, tying up your staff and going through the auditing and verification procedures, I don't see the benefits getting any greater. I don't see a renewed interest out of Washington D.C. for the Congress to go back in and say, you know what, we're going to go back in and we're going to increase funding to VAWA, the Burn grant or Burn JAG grant. I just don't see it. The trends that we're seeing, Commissioner, are focused on what I would consider like a more of a clearinghouse grant, which is you have a specific need for physical, tangible items, such as special armament for a special weapons and tactics team, or trucks and trailers for emergency preparedness, something like that. That seems to be the trend of where things are going, is those tangible hard objects, as opposed to where our tangibles are very low and our human costs are very high. We're obviously a skill-driven business versus a tangible physical business. And so I think that trend, until that reverses, I don't see us being able to rely on grant funding. Okay. And I see us being in a position actually to sit back at the end of this year and make some hard decisions about is the cost-benefit analysis there to continue in this partnership.
Okay. The final question I had was,
Commissioner, can I clarify one additional thought on that too? And I will tell you, your district attorney's office is not alone in doing that comparison. In talking with my peers around the state and around the country, they are also finding themselves in similar situations to sit back and go, based upon all of the strings that come with this money, is it worth it? So it's a conversation that's not just happening here.
okay. The final issue I wanted to ask you about was, I know in the past you've had some emphasis on cold cases.
Yes, sir.
Is that still an emphasis? And if so, do you have anything that you want to announce today as your next case?
I would love to be able to do that.
Okay.
However, that would get me in huge trouble with the Supreme Court. Let me speak. I would love nothing more than to be able to sit here and give you the blow by blow, but I can't do that. So let me couch this in terms that are general enough that I think you'll be able to follow along. We are in the process and in the continued process of going through and queuing up cold cases that have biologicals that probably weren't tested, dating back maybe 20, maybe 25 years. And in the process of getting those queued up, there's a new capital cold case program that is being shot right now that the newspaper had actually featured, and I believe our broadcast partners had featured as well, on a lady who was murdered over 20 years ago, Roxanne Swissler. So I will tell you, please stay tuned, and please continue your commitment to that program. We have calculated the numbers, and we're over a dozen right now of cases that we've been able to resurrect and be able to prosecute.
Very good, thank you. Yes, Commissioner?
Actually, and so is that dollar amount included in your budget?
And the request, it is. I will tell you, if we robbed Peter to pay Paul when it was half funded last year to be able to make it work. So our dedicated staff member to that project obviously is Jackie Spradling, and then myself. And so Jackie doesn't have the ability to focus on that full time. But like I tell her, that's what nights and weekends are for, because she's also carrying an additional full caseload of homicide cases. And that's why we called the unit what we did, which was the Homicide Cold Case Unit. So that when we have homicide cases that come in that need Jackie's expertise, we're able to still utilize her resources and her ability there, which obviously allows her to keep those trial skills sharp, and then be able to utilize her in going through all of the cold case review, as well as directing and cooperating and giving input to the detectives who are doing the legwork on those particular cases.
Okay. One more additional
Of course,
question.
of course.
This is just in regard to salaries.
Yes.
And I know that you may know that the commission approved a 1% one-step increase in 2013
Okay.
for all county employees. We didn't approve any increases in 14. And
Okay.
I think there's been some discussion on placing a priority on being able to give some increases for 2015.
Okay.
So how are salaries and salary increases handled in your office?
That's a fair question. Most of it is promotion driven. One of the things that I didn't like about how the system was built that I inherited was that there was such huge pay discrepancy between people doing the same jobs. We still have that somewhat at the support staff level. We do not have that at the attorney level. If you look at the pay matrices that we set up, we do not give step and grade increases. We give performance-based increases. And so if you look at, the salaries in the office, there's me, my chief deputy, my chief of staff, and then everyone who is a first chair doing that first chair work in the office makes the same amount of money. There is some discrepancy, but it fits within the pay bands, because where we're going to have our largest skill divide is going to be in that second chair rank, because those will be young men and women that have just come out of our juvenile prosecutor positions, and this will be their first pull on the felony or. And so that's where you'll see is that a lot of folks grow up financially in that position, and then they're obviously then their next pay increase that they would get above what I would consider to be a nominal or a COLA increase will be when they make that jump to that first chair position. And that's about an $8,000 pay bump for that promotion.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's pay for performance.
Absolutely.
So in pay performance, and I wish we had that countywide, to be honest with you, but you have to have a systematic performance evaluation system
Mm-hmm.
to implement something like that. And I assume you're pleased with the system that you have.
We are. I will tell you what I would like the opportunity to do, and we could do this with probably somewhere in the neighborhood of $20,000 to $25,000, is to go through and, because I'm thinking through, we went with that system. We were able to get all of that standardized. It was either in 2011, late 2011, or 2012. Because I remember it created all this fervor about, me giving pay increases and stuff like that, and it wasn't. It was just an equalization of the jobs that people were actually doing. What would be nice is that we see our biggest challenge of retention when individuals hit about that 5 to 6 year spot in their career. And what happens is that by that point in time, they've been in the felony rotation for at least 3 years. They've earned their trial bones, and we've kind of become kind of a poaching ground, if you will, for other district attorneys' offices and other county attorneys' offices. We have right now since I've been the DA, we've had employees that have left our office to go to every other district attorney's office in the state. And we have interns that have come through our intern program. I think the last number was in 14 or 15 county attorney offices across the state. So if we had the ability, and if you think about it, this makes perfect sense in life, because you come out of law school, you're eyeball deep in debt, you're getting married, you're buying cars, you're having kids, and that financial reality starts to really compress on those individuals, and they see an opportunity to leave to go to private practice, like a couple of folks we've lost who I hated to lose, but when they're talking about $25,000 or $30,000 a year pay bumps to leave our happy abode in the DA's office to go to civil practice in Johnson County, we can't compete with that. And so that's always going to be the challenge that we're going to deal with, but to incrementally bring those folks along in the earlier years, I think we might see some benefit from that long term.
Okay. Commissioner Cook?
Not part of your budget, but part of your office.
Yes, sir.
$70,000 for capital outlays.
Okay.
Needs, can you describe those needs? And I think it's carpet replacement.
I think it's all.
Yeah, you guys do have nice carpeting down here, by the way.
Form F.
Thank you. Yes, that is actually, I believe that has been in our budget, but not actually in our budget, for about the last 6 years. We have had discussions with, I'm trying to remember the guy who used to be the human resource director here.
Mr. Davis. Rich Davis.
Yes, Rich Davis. We've had discussions with Rich Davis. We were next. And now we've had those same conversations with Mr. Knight. We're next. We were told 6 or 7 years ago that was what the bids came in at, to keep putting it in for a capital outlay. I will tell you that if Mr. Oblander also didn't tell you, the computers that we have in the DA's office right now were installed in the January that I came into office, so January of '09. So you are also probably looking at them. My monitor actually started smoking, and I thought caught fire in my office. So we're on the list as well, I believe, for a tech refresh is what they call it. So I didn't include that in there because Pat said we didn't need to, but you've seen the carpeting in our office. It's nasty. So.
Yeah.
Well, I
Okay.
believe Pat did include quite a few tech refresh dollars in
Yes, he
his
did.
budget, so.
I had a computer monitor burn out yesterday, so I understand.
It's weird. You're sitting there and you're doing your thing, and then all of a sudden the smoke starts pouring out. It's like, anyway.
Betty, do you have anything? Okay. Thank you, Mr. DA.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
See you later, Tom.
Our next hearing is with the sheriff at 1:00.